a little surprised on that pick, but, you see the schedule, and yeah, it's kind of like the number 3, but you still look at a team that's pretty dominant, as Matt Ryan has been a very good quarterback. But let's go with your number 2. I'm really interested to hear your number 2.
I know you'll be interested to hear my number 2, Robert, after I get through with this one, because right now I have this team as being the elite in the NFC. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers, number 2 team in the NFL. Now, that does not mean that the Niners, even though they're not undefeated right now, can still get after teams on defense, because they certainly have the elite 2 or 3 defenses in the league. They have no weaknesses on that side of the ball. And as long, Robert can tell you more on this, because as long as Alex Smith is upright, he is throwing the ball conservative, not getting the turnovers, and that running game with the two-headed force that they have in Hunter and Gore can get after people, this team will be tough to reckon with, and very hard out in the playoffs, even though they're 3-1, even though the Vikings upset them in their own house. The Niners will be a very good 13 and perhaps even 14-win team. John Harbaugh has his team ready for the postseason.
Actually, it's Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, excuse me.
It's all right. What's your number 1?
Number 1 team. Now, after I went through the top 5 rankings, Robert, the Houston Texans. They're just an extremely good team. I might be a little favored on that triplets that they have with Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson, and Arian Foster. But right now, the Houston Texans are just a tremendous team. Now, it's funny how just 10 years after the team was built, one of the worst teams in the NFL, they turn around in 10 years and go from worst to first. Last year, they made their first playoff appearance, and they almost beat the Ravens partner with T.J. Yates at quarterback and limping Andre Johnson, the Texans at number 1. They're a tough team. I can see them putting 13, perhaps even 14 wins easy.
Yeah, and interesting power rankings. They're good choices as well, and some interesting teams that I don't see. If you had to look at some other top teams, the Chargers are a big one, right? So I know that's your team.
Absolutely, and we only have 2 undefeated teams, but the Chargers and the Cardinals are certainly one of those teams I could put in the top 10. Other teams that I did not mention that could make their way in the top 10 with better play throughout the remaining weeks is, let's just look through the NFC. The New York Giants, they are completely under the radar, but I will not put them on a top 5 list until they prove to me that they can win the games. Right now, there's a lot of teams that can make the top 5, and it's early in the year. It's hard to judge these teams. We saw the New York Giants last year. They went 9-7. No one picked them to even make that divisional round. Obviously, any team can come up from the shadows, and who knows? Maybe even the New York Jets with Tim Tebow can get it done. We'll have to wait and see.
All right, Rice. Well, thanks for being on my show, and do you have any last words before you go?
Absolutely, and one more thing I want to mention is on every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, we have a weekly NFL goal line where we'll go 60 minutes. We tend to go 65 minutes, but we'll get you through the Monday night analysis. On Monday night, I believe it's, I don't know if you have it on, but the Monday night game, I don't have it on me. What the
Jets and the Texans.
On Monday night, we'll get through the game. We'll analyze all of Week 5. Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll get you through all the headlines of the National Football League. And Robert, thank you for having me on the show, and best of luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks, Rice. Thanks so much. And it was great to see him as well as Nick Rice is the host of NFL Goal Line, a really good show to watch as well. When we come back, we will have the NBA with Cameron Sadeghi after this commercial break.
End up falling, ball for a few, then end up walking. Catch me in the ball with a Cinderella waltzing, and I do it till it's no longer exclusive. Might go once, might go twice, but never 3 times like an auction to it.
Hello and welcome back to the Deits Sports Talk. I'm your host, Robert Dieters here. And we have a special guest here as the Cameron Sadeghi Show. He's the host of that. And we're going to bring on Cameron. 1 second here. Hey, Cameron, how are you?
Great, I'm doing...
We can't hear you very well, Cameron. Are you good?
Yeah, now I'm good. I'm sorry, I was switching from speaker to normal. I was going to say Spreaker.com, but I don't know why. But, yeah, I was just switching from speaker back to normal. But, yeah, everything's fine, except I'm a little mad at what Nick had to say. I thought the New England Patriots were going to be the #1 team, but that's just me.
Well, they have 2 losses, and that's... I mean, I know they had that 1 loss. I know they had that 1 loss against the Cars. That was unfair.
Game, but
I know you did, and that was kind of upsetting.
yeah, well, okay, let's talk about the NBA, though. What's your first question?
First question, NBA releases guidelines for anti-flopping rule. And interesting, can you tell me a little bit more about this, Cameron? And, you know, I have the first violation 1's warning. Violation 2, $5,000 fine. Violation 3 is $10,000. Violation 4 is $15,000. And then violation 5 is $30,000. Cameron, tell me a little bit more about this anti-flopping rule.
I, in general, think it's a mediocre rule and somewhat not that great, but I just think overall it's an okay rule. Because, again, I've seen, and you could say, oh, well, you haven't played at that level or whatever, but I played the game of basketball. You see flopping a ton. And whenever you're trying to draw a charge, you'll do anything by any means necessary. You'll scream like you got shot out of a cannon. You'll do anything to get the call. And I don't know how in the fastest game of basketball, the NBA, how these referees in the heat of the moment can decipher what to charge and what to flop. I think it's a totally biased look. And in a late game situation, how are you going to know what's a flop, what's not? So this whole this is a judgment and a subjective call that I don't know. You know, it could go either way. I don't know how these refs are going to come to that conclusion. Now, if it's just obvious and the guy's just yelling and he just falls down to the ground, we've seen Shaq do it and Van Gundy getting on his case. We've seen those type of instances, yes, that's clear. But I don't want to see so many violations, so many warnings, where we get to a point where half the guys in the league are having to get their thousands of dollars out of their pockets because of a biased call or a call that was misconstrued. So that's the one thing that needs to be fixed. I hope it's very selective and it's very obvious calls. I don't want it to be very close where you can get it one way and people might think differently, or you look the other way and people might think the other way. And I just hope we get to that conclusion in this whole entire situation.
I have to agree with you that on Cameron, and it's yeah, they're gonna do anything to get to mess you up, and this is a good violation. I think the money's a little bit too much, though. I mean, that 1 warning, but when like they show you that you don't want to do violations, or you're gonna pay the price. And you can go.
Yeah, can I just say this really quick?
Yeah.
I agree with you. You're right. The money. I think the money is a scare tactic. That's what the NBA is trying to do here. They know the NBA has their floppers. You can tell there are a list of dudes who do flop on a normal occasion, and they're trying to hammer down and put the crackdown on those guys. But I don't want LeBron James to be violated. I don't want those big stars to be violated because I feel like, to me, we should just crack down on the Joe Prisvillas of the world, or sometimes, the Derek Fishers of the world. That will be fine, but I don't want to target the big stars.
Agree with you that on camera. And let's go on to another topic here. As I talked about this actually with Steven almost a couple months ago, but now this has been bigger. Allen welcomed by fans at Heat scrimmage. I know Ray Allen has lost contact with his friend Kevin Garnett, his old former teammate. Cameron, what do you think of this? Do you think Ray Allen is going to be a really good player for the Heat and he's also very welcomed as well? What do you think of the fans welcoming him into the Heat fan nation?
I mean, it's typical. I mean, of course, if I'm a Heat fan, I'll jump for joy too. You add another three-point shooter on the squad. That is basically a team with James and Wick, with premier attackers at the rim who are amazing playmakers. We know that. But to me, the problem is this guy healthy enough to get through this 82-game season? Can this guy ensure get it done? Can this guy have the legs to get it done? Because with Allen, it's not just, some guys will just rely heavily on their arms, even though it's not the correct way, or heavily with their legs in regards to shooting. But Ray Allen does it the textbook way with his whole entire body, just like when a quarterback throws a football. It's not just with your arm, it's with your whole body. That's the same thing with Ray. I don't know if the guy's condition, the guy really puts himself in good shape, but I don't know at this age that he can get through this season. And to be honest, I mean, if I'm Kevin Garnett, I'm pretty mad too, because he went to your rival, and I understand that, and that's just typical Kevin Garnett being a competitor. But I think, look, I'm not surprised that they welcomed him, but I don't know if he's going to do as well as people are promising, especially the Heat fans are promising. But still, I think there's going to be a successful Heat season.
Now let's go to LA here as the Clippers. Griffin is ready to go as Paul is out until opener. What do you think of this affecting the LA Clippers?
Yeah, I mean, I saw him, I heard on the headlines he nailed a long three-pointer. Look, to me, I have to wait in season to see how this guy is. And I know, well, people are saying I love the way he dunks, I love the way he does things, but to be honest, a dunk is just like a layup. It's still 2 points. It's still, yes, it might be an emotional lift, but when it comes to the playoffs, and when you're facing the Zach Randolphs, the Tim Duncans, how do you use your pivots, your moves to get easy layups at the rim? Griffin hasn't shown that in the past. He's still developing those skills, and it's going to take him some time. It's not something that you learn overnight, and I just hope that Griffin, he's growing, he's getting better, he's showing that he has better post moves every single year. I think in 1 or 2, I think this year or maybe even next, we'll see the full, complete Griffin. But until now, I mean, I'm sure if he nails down a three-point shot, I think he could. To me, all he needs to do is knock down a mid-range jump shot. Threes, he should be worrying about. You know what he should be worrying about too? His free throws. His free throws, his mid-range jump shot, and his spin moves inside, and his hook shots inside. Those are the things you should be worrying about. He shouldn't be worrying about turning in a Jimmy Fredette as a power forward. That's not the main goal here. It's about getting past big-time defenders, big-time power forwards, as we are in the era of power forwards. We have a great set of power forwards in the NBA, and he's got to elevate himself. He's not better than Kevin Love in my mind. I think he's slightly overrated.
I have to agree with you on that, Cameron. And I'd like to know, how is this NBA season going to shape out? Do you think it's going to be different from all other ones, or do you think it might be the same old? The teams are going to be the same teams. Are going to be the same teams, and the bad teams are going to be the bad teams.
I have to say it's going to be some changes. I think obviously, there's no lockout, so I think you're going to see a way larger scoring output, especially earlier on. Last year was pretty bad. Okay, I mean, there were guys who their shooting percentages were way down. I mean, their legs were tired. They could not do well in the open court on the fast break, and they couldn't really do anything offensively. But now, I think we have a new we're going to have better